What's up everyone? Welcome to another video. Today I'd like to share with you some of the requirements I've needed to complete after being accepted into medical school and before I actually start medical school. So thank you so much for joining and let's get started. The first thing I needed to do after being accepted into medical school was to fill out my matriculation agreement and submit a $200 deposit. This deposit apparently goes to my first year's tuition. This deposit can really range depending on what school you go to. I was accepted into one school that was like $1,500 for their deposit, and they had like a series of 3 different deposits. So it really depends on which school you go to, but hopefully all of them would apply that towards your first year's tuition. Whew, out of breath. The next thing I needed to do was to fill out a bunch of random forms like a credit policy and a drug-free policy, etc. There are a number of forms that you'll need to complete, and these are really quick, but just thought I'd throw that in there. Another thing to do is to submit your final transcripts from college. I was able to submit mine pretty early because I am a non-traditional student, so I wasn't taking classes at the time. But for college students who are applying to medical school, you would submit your transcripts to your medical school after you finish. My next step was to apply for financial aid with FAFSA. This took me about 3 days in the evenings, and I think it could go a lot quicker if you actually had all of your tax documents ready to go, but I'd never done it before and I didn't have any of that ready to go, so it took me a little bit longer. I've heard that you're supposed to do this sooner rather than later. I started mine in January and I found out my results in April, the end of April, beginning of May. So I thought that was like a very comfortable timeline for doing FAFSA. Meanwhile, my school has been doing webinars and emails keeping us up to date with everything. They had a webinar about kind of what we could expect with the virus going around. Are we going to be meeting online or in person? And they also had like a studying strategies webinar as well. Right now it looks like my medical school is going to actually be meeting in person, but I've heard of a lot of medical schools that are now going online. I really hope my school doesn't do that because I really want to meet the other medical students, and I think it's kind of sad if we don't get to start together, but that's okay. We'll meet them eventually. Either way. Okay, then I needed to complete a physical exam and immunizations and blood titers. Physical exam, pretty self-explanatory. They just, a normal physical, make sure you're healthy and ready to start med school. As far as the immunizations and blood titers go, I needed to have blood titers done for hepatitis B, measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella. Interestingly, I am no longer immune to varicella, which is chickenpox. I don't think I would have found this out had I not gone through the titers. So I had to actually go back and I went to Walgreens and had a varicella booster. So varicella is chickenpox for any of you that don't know that, but anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Oh well. Okay, so I needed to have the blood titers done. The next thing was submitting my childhood vaccination records, being my hepatitis B and measles, mumps, rubella, varicella, all of that. And then I needed a current Tdap vaccine, which is tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. Usually you get this every 10 years. I got mine a while ago, so I just submitted my record of that. And you also need a current flu vaccine. And because of the timing of the year, it's now June, and I don't have documentation from last year's flu shot, so I would actually get this year's flu shot, which I think comes out in August. And lastly, my school requires a tuberculosis test. I decided to go with the QuantiFERON Gold because it only requires a single blood draw versus the baseline 2-step TB test. You would have to go into the doctor's office twice to get it checked over, and I'm still working, so that didn't really make a lot of sense for me. And thankfully my school would allow me to do this other type of blood titer. So yeah, that's basically everything as far as vaccination and blood titers go. Moving on. The next thing I did was submit a waiver for student health insurance. I'm on my husband's health insurance program, so they basically needed to go through and make sure that my health insurance program covered everything that they needed at my school. Then of course, checking into housing or completing your housing applications or finding an apartment or a home. That's a really important step. You can really start that anytime. One of the next things for my school was filling out a vehicle registration for parking. And lastly, we have a 3-day orientation, which I don't know how that's going to look or if we'll have that, or if it will be online. But yeah, basically these are all of the things that I've needed to be doing in the meantime after being accepted and before matriculating to medical school. Anyway, I hope this can be helpful in showing you what it's like, at least for an osteopathic medical school. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe if you would like to see medical school related videos coming soon. All right, thanks again for watching, everyone.